Welcome to Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman. Today we have BJ Simpson. BJ brings 15 plus years of real estate and construction experience with a sharp focus on underwriting, deal structuring, and investor first execution in dynamic market conditions. BJ, we appreciate you coming on the show today. If you could, let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. I've been in real estate for in one fashion or another for I guess about 15 years, some 15 to 20 years, but got real serious about it about 3 or 4 years ago. I live in Amarillo, Texas, and I'm from Indiana originally. Here by the way of a government job that I've since left. Lived in Louisiana, Arkansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Colorado. Lived in a lot of different places, but I've settled here for the last 12 years.
Got it. Very cool. Well, let's get into real estate. So tell us about your first deal and what got you really into real estate and how that came about.
Yeah, so my first I grew up in a construction family. My dad did commercial construction. We put in suspended ceilings, so walked around on stilts and scaffolds and everything, and so very familiar with large construction projects. And My dad and I built a house when I was about 23, I think it was, right after my wife and I got married. We built our first house, and then moved on from there about 2 years ago, or 2 years later. Went down to Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was about we got there in 2008. And I kind of like to joke that anyone could get into real estate in around 2008 to 2011, I felt like. And so we bought a few foreclosures, some distressed properties, and rented them out. Actually, just sold the last one of those last year. So I did the whole birth thing, and actually have went the whole 15 years, put them on 15-year fixed notes, two of them, and let them go almost all the way, recapped right before the end, and then sold and
Nice.
capitalized again.
That's it, and that's always a good feeling. It's a good win. It's
Yeah.
from buying it right, renovating it, and then refinancing or selling. So yeah, that means you're doing the right thing. Tell us about multifamily. What got you into the? There's different niches within real estate.
Yeah, it was. I think it's the same thing that draws a lot of us into multifamily. It's the scale. I was looking. I bought a I chased my career for about 10 years. And then when I got back into real estate, I bought another single family home here in Amarillo. So, put me up to like four single family rentals. And, I mean, I'm not cash flowing enough to do anything but take care of the inevitable HVAC going out in 4 years or something like that. And so I was just trying to figure out a way to financial freedom through single family. And I really couldn't. And I thought, well, there's got to be a way to get more of this stuff. And so that led me into multifamily and just kind of we went into a 20 unit, got the seller to finance the down payment, got us kind of in. It was kind of at the top of the market. So we didn't it wasn't a great deal, but it was in a rougher neighborhood. So it allowed it to cash flow, and we still have it actually, and it still works for us. And then just kind of went from there, went to a 72 unit, an 81 unit, a 29 unit, a 108 unit. Now I've got some townhomes, a few townhome projects. So just kind of took off from there.
Tell us about how you get into to getting the seller to agree with seller financing. Like, how does that conversation even come about?
Yeah, in this situation, I had the money for the down payment. I was being convinced to use other people's money, so I was trying to raise capital. wasn't having any luck. People are like, "You're crazy, man! You're buying up on the boulevard. Like, what are you doing?" And so we had a few things come up in this situation. I asked him first. He said no. We went ahead and went under contract. Then we had a few things come up with our inspection, and I was like, "Man, I'd really like 50,000 off, or if you're willing to sell or finance the down payment, it's something like 8% interest only for a few years. We can just leave it." And he agreed at that point. So it was about 4 or 5 no's. I made it sound a little easier than it was. I asked him about every time I saw him. It was kind of a unique deal because he's here in Amarillo, I'm in Amarillo, so I just went to his office and basically sat across from him and was like, "Man, I don't think I'm going to be able to close this unless you can help me out." And he really wanted to close. And you could tell by the state of the asset he needed to close. So that's how that landed.
So let me not to get off topic, but if you were a seller, would you entertain seller finance?
Yeah, I would.
I
I
think I would too.
actually, yeah, without a doubt. It'd have to be for the right person. It's all about the relationship.
Yeah.
I actually bought the house that I live in currently on seller finance, and we shook hands, and we eventually did a contract right before we closed. But we had a handshake deal for a month or two on seller financing, and then eventually we're like, well, we probably ought to paper this up before closing. But yeah, I think it all just depends on the person. But if I had a comfort level with the person that I was selling to, I absolutely would.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it really kind of is a testament for the property that you're getting ready to purchase too. Because if the seller is willing to do a seller finance piece, then that really kind of makes everything makes more sense, makes you feel better, because then the seller's wanting to stay in and also keep equity in on the property, because of course he wants his equity secured and the property secures the equity. So it kind of makes it holistic. Um, but not to get off topic, but that could be another play. Just keep cash flowing and also get a chunk of cash to go and do something else with. But um, lead us into your next acquisition, because you started small like you should and get some momentum, and then you got onto your next acquisition. What does that look like?
Yeah. The next one was our big hairy one. So I still thank the heavens from time to time that we were able to get that one done. It was 72 units. It was one of the rougher complexes here in Amarillo. It was drug dealers, homeless people. They just left the doors open. Homeless people were in and out. Yeah, child beaters, sex trafficking, everything you can imagine. The cops wouldn't show up when we first
Wow.
purchased it, but it was in a good part of town, a relatively good part of town, and so it's like, man, all we got to do is just get this thing cleaned out, and it needed all three roofs leaked. I mean, they just poured through the stairwells. It's a really, really rough project, rough property, but it was built in '83. Every unit had patios. Every unit's got washer and dryers. It's nice layouts. Is a good unit mix. Mix of ones and twos for the area. And so we took it on. It was 2021. There weren't many deals out there, and
Yeah.
for inexperienced guys, I didn't feel like, and so we just went ahead and took that big project on. Didn't kill us, so I guess the theory is it made us stronger, right? But it was a very very difficult project. We eventually got the cops to start showing up, and they start showing up 4 days a week usually. And
Yeah.
we eventually got everybody out. Had some big drug busts, on the property and stuff like that. But once people kind of got the message, we've been able to turn it around, and we've had that property for, I guess, 3 years now. Yeah, 3.5 years now. And and in all honesty, Josh, it's just now starting to really really catch its legs. It took 2 or 3 years for the stain to wear off of that property.
Yeah, but you're buying it. You're totally changing the whole community out there, and that's what it takes. Somebody willing to put in the effort. Because '83 is a good year. It's a good year as long as you can go in there and make the repairs. The vintage is good, and then the drug dealers, a lot of them will leave after they realize that there's a new sheriff in town, new ownership. But the ones that cling on, those are the ones that are the cameras in the windows, cameras above the doors, and all that good stuff. The nonsense. Once you get those people out, now it's rebuilding, and then you have your rebranding and so on and so forth. What are some things that you've learned you wish you knew now what you knew then, or knew then what you know now?
So much. I'm sure you're the same way, Josh.
Yeah.
So many things. I think one of the things that I would have done a little earlier is lean harder on people with experience doing what I was doing. When at it too blind early on. Specific items. We probably over renovated at first, trying to change the image. We actually brought Airbnbs in there, and it was a real tricky situation, and we allowed a few people to sublease and do Airbnbs, and it was real tough because half the guests didn't really like it, but we found a little niche in Amarillo here on I-40 where people were just looking for that Motel 6 of Airbnb stays that had washer and dryer in the unit, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, some of that stuff helped. But I guess that back to your original question, I would have leaned harder on people, and I probably would have waited a little on the rebrand. I probably wouldn't have pushed rent
Yeah.
so hard. The second kind of time around, we kind of had a second sort of a lease up that we had to do at that property just because of a few things that happened with property management. We lowered our rents and just had a wider cast a big net with low rents and put the right people in, and then we can raise rents from there. And so that's probably the big one. I wouldn't have pushed right at market so hard probably at first.
I'm glad you said that. I had to explain my business plan to a bank, and they said, "Why aren't you meeting performa on your first lease?" I said, "Well, you get your performa on the second lease. The first lease is the people that are willing to move in, at a little bit of a higher rate, but they still have to deal with the nonsense. So you still have concession lease. It's not going to reach pro forma. You still have the nonsense. You have the construction, you have the people, the characters, the bad actors that are still on site, but you're transitioning the entire complex. So it just takes time. And the second lease comes around, unfortunately, in the second year. So there's no fast way of getting there besides time. So but now you're growing legs. Now it's probably taking off like a rocket ship, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're just about to have that one restabilized. We're at 88% occupancy
Yeah.
there. Our other properties are at 95 and 100, predominantly, and so it's the last one, but it'll be there. I mean, it could be there end of this week. That next week is probably when it'll be above 90, and we're going to be all the way within a month or two, and then we can move on to phase two. It took me longer than I would have liked with this project, but boy, lessons learned and survived it, right? So,
Yeah. So and then you like you had mentioned rebrand later so that you're not having to rebrand because
yeah.
you still have bad actors out there. You bring in a brand new tenant, a great tenant, but then they maybe in pass by on a sidewalk run into the wrong tenant, and then now you got a bad review or a smear out there that could have been avoided. That's good advice. Um,
Yeah.
what kind of when you check out the properties like this one, what attracted you to it? Was it the price? Was it the challenge?
With this property, it was kind of a combination of a lot. I did maybe think I was a little more superhuman than I was at the time. I think that happens a little bit. You look at it and you go, "Oh, I can do anything," which we did. It just took a little longer than I wanted. But I think that the big attraction for me was it was in a good part of town, and it just was kind of inexplicable that this, one of the nicest bar and restaurant, one of the bar and restaurants that everyone goes to is right behind it. It's just kind of inexplicable that you should have to like, watch out for your wallet in your back pocket, walk into this restaurant that everyone goes to. It's to me, it was in a good area and it had a lot of potential. And I think you could see when you looked at it, you could see where this could be a nice place to live in a really good part of town.
Like when you say good part of town, what gives you that feeling?
Yeah, I guess,
What's
yeah,
around it?
really good. I'm glad you said that. A really good might be too much, but I mean it's a good part of town. It was in Amarillo, south of Interstate 40 is typically the more preferred areas. There are quite a few of apartment complexes that are a little bit to the southeast of these, but there's also some of the nicer areas. The nicest, it was the nicest grocery store in town, a Chick-fil-A. All the Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, Home Depot, nice grocery store, one after another, all them within a mile, within a half mile. And so, that their marketing, I lean on other people's marketing. I,
Yeah,
I really like to follow Chick-fil-A's around because I feel like there's no world where I can market like, or where I can do market research, not marketing, but market research like Chick-fil-A can. So that was
yeah,
part of it for sure.
yeah. Their market due diligence. They've already put in the cost, the upfront cost of making sure that it's a viable spot for them to put in a multi-million-dollar facility in their business. Make sure that there's enough traffic and flow through. So yeah, that's good. It's just like the Starbucks. If you get into a submarket with a Starbucks, you know that the demographics are great, and then if you find a distressed property at the right price, now you just almost struck gold. It's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
and then hospitals nearby too. Those are good indicators. Very cool. What kind of debt did you take out to make all this thing happen?
So this one was back in the day of just wild money. I felt like for me at least, we just went bank debt. The initial note was like 4.75, something like four and three
Yeah,
quarters percent. It was a 3-year note. It was our shortest one. I tried to do 5+ year, and all the other assets back when rates were that low. I locked in fixed rate debt 5+ years, just because, yeah, I spent my career as a meteorologist predicting the future, and it felt to me like the future looked a little higher rate wise. It
yeah,
didn't look like it could be any lower for sure. And so, but yeah, we took that one at a 3-year bank loan. We refied in 19 months to agency debt with Freddie Mac and got like a 5.4 rate, and
nice.
all the good stuff there. So.
What? How much was your capex budget?
It was the budget. Do you want the budget or the actual? The budget was about a
Yeah,
million. We've spent. It was actually, I think the budget was like 1.2 million. we've spent more like $1.4 million, I think,
Yeah.
on it, $1.5 million if you include some of the refinance costs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
went a
And
little bit
then
over budget, but it was survivable. I mean, we had a little bit of room there. So
you all are procuring your own labor and material, right?
yeah, that was yeah, we generaled that one. Yeah, the short answer is yes.
So in all reality, then it could have been a $2 million cost if you would have had to GC it out or more.
Yeah, without a
Yeah.
doubt. I mean, that's where it would have been. My partner's they own roofing company. They own a roofing company, so we were able to get all 3 roofs done at cost, put TPO on
Yeah.
them, did it right, So, yeah, we were able to use that. That project doesn't work if we just hire a general contractor and step back and manage them. The numbers wouldn't have mathed.
That is truly the strategy to go with, though. If you're vertically integrated and you can manage other contractors, put project managers in place, order your own material, know what to look for out there, and manage all the renovations. I mean, that gives you such an uphill advantage to the industry just in general. You can buy you can buy higher, not that you want to, but you're also saving so much on just the cost of labor and materials if you can procure it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, cool. And now you're stabilizing that. So when you refinance with agency, are they 90 or 95? I think they're 90%
Yeah, they
occupied,
were
right?
90. Yeah, they were 90. We rushed into that refi. Capital partners wanted, they were ready for their capital back for one of their projects, and I felt the kind of the urge to help them out because they helped us, get into that one. And so we refied a little early, and some of the mistakes we made, we leased it all the way up for the refi, but not with the best tenants because we kind
Yeah.
of rushed the last 20 tenants in there, leased it all the way up, some first month free sort of stuff, just the nonsensical leasing practices that ended us ended up getting us back in trouble, which is why we ended up kind of on almost a 2-stage deal. If there's one from your question earlier, if I had to do it again, I would have never done that. I would have never rushed the refinance and rushed the lease up with bad tenants because we almost put ourselves back in the same, not near to the level, but we put ourselves back closer to the hole we started in by
Well,
doing
it
that. And
goes back to
that was
them running one bad tenant can run off 10 good tenants. It's you get
yeah,
the nonsense out in the parking lots or at late at night, just doing what they do best. They just run off good people, and then you're re-renovating again and then releasing, and it's little miniature nightmares. We've had some characters on our properties, and it's hard as hell to get them out, and you just have to, for the betterment of the community, just get them out at all costs.
yeah, well,
So
100%.
what so again, what are some you're hitting some good learning lessons. What are some other things that you would have changed just for the people tuning in to for experienced operator? What are some things you would do different today that help other people avoid those mistakes?
Boy, there's so many. I think that a little bit. I'm gonna shift just a touch. My mindset wasn't where it needed to be either. I came out of a 15-year federal government job where I was IT specialist, I was a meteorologist, and I was an IT specialist. And so as an IT specialist, I had to take care of issues off the clock and around the clock, when they popped up. But for the most part, when I clocked out, I worked 6 to 3 every day. And when I clocked out, I was gone. And if I didn't have a little side hustle thing going on, which, I usually did, but when I didn't, I was at the golf course, I was on the lake, I was just doing whatever I kind of wanted to do. And I wasn't quite ready for the commitment level that this was going to take. As far as when you go into it, I had to get my mind right pretty quick. In that, like, hey, it's Saturday, it's my wife's 40th birthday. It doesn't matter, the apartment's flooding, and I don't got a maintenance guy right now, and so I put on my boots and head over there, and
Yeah.
that was probably. Uh, I was really frustrated for probably the first year and a half. I'm like, is this ever going to end? And then I kind of figured out, no, it's not. You just got to embrace it, and it does. It changes, now I'm not down there in the maintenance anymore, obviously, but like, there's still issues. I go to spring break and I get a call on Sunday afternoon, right as I settle into spring break, that, one of the units is on fire, and it's like, you just have to take a deep breath. And luckily it didn't turn out to be anything, but like you just take a deep breath and realize that this is life now. And I think that was probably the biggest one. I think once you can do that and kind of develop a practice of stoicism, is the quicker you can do that, the easier everything is. And then I think everything kind of clears up. The cloud and the fog, the clouds and the
Yeah.
fog kind of clear up. At least for me is the way that works.
Yeah, I think if you have enough of anything, once you hit economies of scale, you're going to have issues that you never had before too. Like you'd mentioned, the lines busting, flooding, this, that. If you've got 4 or 5 units, you know the property, you know it well, it just does its thing, and it just does its thing. But if you've got 300, now you've got people, now you've got things, you've got economies of scale. Certain things pop up, and those issues, you've got to have somebody just ready to just take the call. It's it's just what it is, and that would go with any industry. If if you're selling an app, now you get a bug that doesn't make something function or work properly. A button doesn't work. So just economies of scale with anything.
Yeah.
So it's just same with apartment complexes. You have a fire or pipe bust or maintenance issues, toilets. It's just on and on and on. It's just like you mentioned, you got to put people in place. Um, Very cool. What are you seeing with the capital markets right now?
Yeah. So I've joined with, and Josh, I think you know JD Chada well with Inner
Yeah,
Circle Capital. So I joined up with JD about a year ago. He's been doing it for a while, but started doing it for himself a little over, little while ago, year, 18 months ago, something like that. And boy, it's been wild. Equity and debt are both kind of wild. I feel like, it's still out there to get, we're still closing deals. But I think I was talking to JD the other day and he said, crazy deal. And I said, is there a deal that we have, gotten across the line that we haven't said? What's the last deal we didn't say crazy deal when we got it across the line, And
yeah,
so, I don't know, Josh, I'd be curious your take. My kind of, my take is the equity is scared in our industry that they've been burnt a little bit too much in class B, class C.
yeah,
Uh, some of this older vintage stuff that and it's probably everywhere, but I can speak to kind of to my stuff, our stuff. But I feel like the debt's out there. The debt seems to almost be popping up everywhere, and you can find debt to match to deals. But the equity is tricky. People are, I think people are more likely to go in. At least what I've seen. I've seen some folks that might prefer debt to equity right now, and a little bit more preference toward debt than there was maybe say 3 years ago when everyone was just crushing it in equity, and everyone wanted to be
yeah.
in the deals. So I don't know what you're seeing, Josh.
I mean, I would like to see the 10 year just be just a smidge below four mark. If it
Yeah.
just keeps going, just the 4.5 it just gets to where it's not a good time to refinance. It's not a good time to buy because you know that's not where it's going to stay. You know it's going to be below four. It's just when can it just stay there long enough and the right timing to just lock it in, to just close
Yeah.
at the right time. So it's because we're working on a couple properties right now to refinance as well as purchase, but it's just a matter of timing. Because a few weeks ago it hit below four. It's like damn, and we're months away right now. Where it's still 60 days. So it's just I think the market wants certainty, and I mean it's everything that's happening needs to happen. Everything that's happening in the market, it was way too high for too long. So it needed to come down. And then when it does go back up, it's going to be built off of principle more than just, I think, a bubble.
Speculation. Yeah.
There's going to be substance behind the run up, manufacturing jobs, just true substance. But once the tariffs I think get cleared up, everything becomes more certain. Things will just skyrocket, and then we'll go into an era where I think buy as much as you can possibly buy and ride it out, and then see what that looks like 3 years from now, whether it's time to
Yeah.
exit or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think kind of an averaging in philosophy is what I've kind of taken. If you can get it to pencil at 8.5, 9%, even 10% bridge debt, and get it all to work, then chances that you're not going to be able to, chances that you're not going to be able to refi into 8.5, 9% debt are very, very low. You're going to be able to find that somewhere, especially in our industry. So, there's privatization of Fannie and Freddie is floating out there, which would take away one of the better debt options for what we do. But for the most part, it's tough to imagine. I hate to say that, but it's tough to imagine a situation where debt's going to be much more expensive than it is now. So if you can get it to pencil now, I figure buy an average in on the way down.
Yeah, we just closed on 2 properties within the past 2.5 months. So I mean, we continue to buy. It's just when's the right time to refinance, and when's the right time to buy the next one. I think it's just keep buying in all any weather atmospheres, and just go with the flow. I haven't stopped. I don't plan on stopping, but if you refinance, you want to be like you're locking it in. Your payments determined for the next, call it 5 years, depending on your structure. Fannie and Freddie, it's so expensive to refinance with them. Your insurance cost goes up, the cost of closing, just in general. We've got another one going now, and it's just. But if this is the same deal, if you take the regionals, you're going to get a higher interest rate too. So it's just, pick your poison.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some private money options out there now, but boy, it's definitely it's definitely wild.
Yeah.
I think.
What's your next deal look like?
Well, I don't know, Josh. We just closed one back in March. So that one's 18 townhomes. We got to lease that up. We just started on the kind of the lease up there. I don't know. I've been working with, we've got a deal down in Louisiana, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't hate Louisiana. I kind of thought Louisiana was almost, I thought it was a joke that I was going down to Louisiana, but it's treated us really well. And that you got to protect your hurricane risk with very, insurance is a monthly sometimes a weekly conversation. It's the most important, and it should be everywhere, but it's especially important down there because having insurance doesn't even do the trick down there. You got to have the right type, and you got to make sure that they're going to pay and all that. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's in Louisiana. Our last asset we purchased was in North Carolina. We kind of have 3 markets right now. Just kind of watching where it goes from there. So, what about yours, Josh? Can I ask you? Can I turn the question around?
I mean, we just absorbed around 180 units, so it's I like to take a step back, just absorb in, recalibrate, add to the team, new team members, because we're same as you. We're vertically integrated, construction, property management, and everything's in house, asset management. So it's absorb, recalibrate, hire, expand, and then gear up for the next one, because it's you're growing all facets at the same time. So controlled growth is good because we've got a ton of runway left as far as just how long we want to be in the industry. I mean, just years and years and years. So it's not there. There used to be a part of me that wants 2,000 units right now, and at the same time, it's 2,000 problems right now. So it's not getting there. It's just a path there. Just controlled growth, slow growth, and just keep it all. You don't have to rush into it just to get there. So
it's that old adage, don't scale chaos, right? I think there
yeah,
was a moment there where I think y'all have to do it. You're talking about people that are getting in. There's a moment where you kind of have to scale. You don't have to, but there's a getting to 100 units or getting to a couple hundred units to where you can really, really, take advantage of some of the economies of scale and start to be able to start delegating some duties and tasks. I think that's a really important moment. And I've done an awful lot of what you've just talked about. I've gone pretty slow to make sure that as we scale, we're scaling a very, efficient operation with good systems and processes. And we're still not there. We never will be. None of us ever will be, but we're getting better and better, right?
yeah, and even like just taking a step back and seeing how the leasing process is, and where can we plug in AI? Where can we do some more conversions from showings to leases? Like where's the misses at? So recalibrate, because if you built everything off of a solid foundation, now the real scale can come into play where you can take down a large property and then boom, just plug in your processes and the system just takes care of itself. So but you have to have a problem in order to create the solution. So more units you have, you create new problems, new solutions, and eventually those you don't really have new problems other than you need to find new properties to put into your system because it
Yeah,
just
and
keeps
those
going.
are good problems, right?
Right. So, but yeah, no, it's been a ride. It's still every day is a new adventure, and that's part of it. It's just getting there. So, um, very cool. Are there any books that you would recommend to listeners that they go out and read and that helped you get to where you're at?
I think for the crowd that's just getting into it, I liked Multifamily Millions by David Lindahl. I thought it was a very straightforward. I don't know if you read that one, Josh,
Yep.
but I thought it was pretty straightforward. And I went back to the property management section on it over and over and over again. So I thought that was really good from a nuts and bolts standpoint. Um, from a mindset standpoint, the kind of the Dan Sullivan, Benjamin Hardy sort of who, not how, 10x is easier than 2x, self-managing company, that sort of stuff are some that I've reread. There's all the old there's the old classics, the Covey ones, the How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those are all really
Yeah.
good ones. The one that I've been on right now that I just listened to, read, quote unquote. I listened to it. 10x is easy, or I'm sorry, the Dan Martell one,
Yeah,
Buy
he's
Back Your
good.
Time. I
Yeah.
just went through it and just immediately started it right back over again,
Oh yeah.
and I'm about halfway through it again. And that one I think's been fantastic. So
Everything's great in theory, and it's like getting there. It's just getting there, because a lot of these guys, like Dan Martell, he's massive exit, and then he's trying to figure out what to spend his time on. Well, he writes a book. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then Who Not Hell, that is a great book because that really kind of opens up your mindset to don't limit yourself. Find the people that have been there, that have done it, that can lift you up. So yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Cool. BJ, if somebody wants to reach out to you, possibly invest in one of your deals, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I probably should have done a little bit better job with my name there on the screen, but it's BJ Simpson is my full name, and it's caprockwealth.com is our website. You can reach out through that website. It's BJ at caprockwealth, and I'll go ahead and just my cell phone number is 806-567-1679, and I try to stay available for people who want to reach out. So feel free.
Awesome, BJ. Definitely appreciate your time. Look forward to following you, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.